full force. And they all wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for the dudes who came up with this in the first place. The idea to do this and to make this work and to make it go for 5 seasons. And that, of course, is Hayden Schlossberg, Josh Heald, and John Hurwitz. I've had an opportunity to speak to these guys every time that we've had a season. I think almost every year. I might have missed like 1 year. But since season 1, when they came into Collider, I had an opportunity to talk to them. And they've been very, very generous with their time and always talking to me about it. And we talked about this and more. We don't not only talk about Cobra Kai, we talk about some of their upcoming projects. So here's my conversation that I had with John Hurwitz, Josh Heald, and Hayden Schlossberg, the creators of Cobra Kai, about season 5 and about the other projects they're working on. Here you go.
We are a happy Brady Bunch. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited. Once again, it is now a yearly thing, and I get excited for it every time it happens. It's Cobra Kai time. It's season 5, and I have the creators, ladies and gentlemen, both Hayden Schlossberg, Josh Heald, John Hurwitz. They're all here, and we're going to talk about season 5. Now, what I'm going to warn some people is that I'm going to put a time code, because at one point we'll talk spoilers, but it'll be in the time codes. We're going to start with non-spoilers because I have them here. I got to ask some spoilers. Come on. Gentlemen, once again, 5 seasons in. It ain't easy to do 5 seasons where everybody's having fun and keeping everybody interested. You guys keep setting the bar. Congratulations on a great season. I had a lot of fun watching it. And you did it. You brought Barnes back. Awesome. That was not necessarily a spoiler because there's a picture that was out. So let's start with you, Hayden. So tell me about this season. Now, I know that coming out of the COVID season that you guys had previously, and how jarring and how tough that was for everybody. How was shooting this season as compared to 4 and the up in the air with Netflix and all that stuff?
This season was different in the sense that we had Netflix wanting a season right away, right on the heels of finishing season 4. So we were editing season 4, and they were like, "Let's get going." And so we started a writer's room, really early, and we were writing as we were shooting. It's pretty amazing when you think about, the season 4 dropped. Basically, it feels like 9 months ago or something like that, or just a little over that. And now we have another full 10 episodes. You don't usually get that amount of content within the span of 10 months. So, we've just been working nonstop. We have a game plan in mind, so we were able to jump right into it. But it was it's fun because you have this big streamer that wants you to deliver more content, but it's been a very busy year, to say the least.
I'm sure, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, so John, when it comes to these plans that Hayden said, I remember talking to you guys back in season 1, and you knew kind of a clear-cut kind of idea of where you want to take these characters. So as much as I'm enjoying it, how far can you take it?
We're not at the place where we're allowed to say how far we're taking it. Okay. We've always said that we know where the end game is for a number of the characters, and we're still on that path. Season 5 should not be the end of Cobra Kai. That's not the plan, and we're figuring out kind of what's next. We're in the middle of shooting another show at the moment, Obliterated, but we will be back in the Cobra Kai saddle soon enough. But we're at one of those seasons where it was a lot of fun taking some of these characters that have been at each other's throats, for so long, and seeing some different looks for the characters. Terry Silver is a force to be reckoned with, and he's a threat that Daniel sees coming, and not everybody else does. And season 5 was about everyone sort of seeing what Terry Silver's vision of Cobra Kai taking over the valley looks like, and how are they going to respond?
Yeah, and Josh, when this came about, when you guys were talking about the Miyagi verse and everything, where the plan of where it was going, and getting Thomas Ian Griffith back, and I bring up Star Wars every time we talk, every time. He's Emperor Palpatine, man. He's turned into Emperor Palpatine. Is that ever a conversation where you because there's tons of Star Wars references in your show now. And there's Rocky stuff and all that. The Rocky stuff is phenomenal in this episode, in this season, by the way. Well done. But I got to ask you. So was he always I know that Kreese was always the guy, but was the Silver? Wait until we bring Silver back and watch what he's going to do. Was that always the thing with you guys?
We knew that Silver's introduction would change things. We knew that we had a lot of freedom with that character, given the performance that Thomas Ian Griffith was asked to do in the Karate Kid Part 3, and given just those little story drops of Kreese and Silver's relationship and what that backstory was like, it gave us the most canvas to play with in terms of where does a character like that come from? Where does he go? What makes him tick? We know by now what makes John Kreese tick. We've seen the life lessons that have brought him to that black and white outlook on life. But with Silver, there was much more opportunity to really dig into how he became the way that we knew him in Karate Kid Part 3, how he looked at himself afterwards, and what the slippery slope was in terms of his desires for life. So yes, I mean, we talk Star Wars all the time. It's inescapable. I think even the writers in the writers' room who aren't, the most Star Wars people are now Star Wars people, because it's the battle of good and evil, right? It's the people in black and the people in white. And Silver is manipulating people beyond even what we thought Kreese was capable of. And I think when he did that rug pull at the end of season 4, it showed, somebody has finally out-Kreesed Kreese. And that gave us such a fun canvas to write to in season 5 in terms of, okay, now that he can run amok, what's he going to do? He's got unlimited resources. He's got this, this thing in his gut and his heart that's telling him to take over the valley. What's possibly going to happen? And the world was his oyster.
And I love that that's something that you guys play with too, because I've said it to you before, like with season 1, when we're watching it, had a lot, it was kind of more so, and let me get to this before you don't yell at me. When it comes to the first season, I thought was based a little bit more in realism, right? Based off a lot of the stuff that was happening in it seemed more on tone with the movies, right? But then season 2, like I said, when the kids started learning karate pretty quick and all these things started happening, I said it's a shift in tone, but then it was consistent for the entire series. And what this series has consistently been is fun. And yes, you deal with emotional moments, and that's why I went, I knew from second season 2 started, I'm like, this is where they're going with the show, and it's stayed consistent. But how do you balance it? And I guess this is a question for all you guys, but how do you balance it from saying, okay, because you guys you're both, obviously, we know how skilled you are in the comedy writing, but how do you balance it from saying, okay, I'm going to take it to comedy, I'm going to take it to some really heightened martial arts, but I still got to balance it and make the characters feel real. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not. I'll tell you, I have a feeling Stallone had the same situation every time he did a Rocky. Which and it's always been like a kind of spiritual cousin, franchise to the Karate Kid. And I just feel like you have to go in thinking about the roots of the franchise, what the audience is really like from the original, which is always kind of grounded the most in reality. But when you look at like the Rocky movies, you get to Rocky 3, Rocky 4, and it goes to these crazy places, but then it could also go back to Rocky Balboa, and so there's different ways of playing in the world. And I just think by the mid 80s, Rocky had won enough things where he had earned these movies where you needed next level competitors. And so if you were on that ride, it felt natural, and it could be kind of at times silly and crazy. But what Stallone did right in those movies is he always cared about the character. It always flowed from the last one. It made sense that, okay, well, what's the challenge in Rocky 3? Well, now he's just a champion and he's kind of getting a little soft. He needs to find that edge, that eye of the tiger. And Rocky 4, okay, well, how do we top that? It's the fucking Cold War, Yep. And it goes to a crazy place, but it's intense, and it's, it capture what the essence of Rocky, the montages, the training, underdog, all that stuff. And so when we go into a season of Cobra Kai, it's what do we love about the Karate Kid? It's the bullies, it's the bullying, it's the underdog story, it's mentor student, it's all these things, and the montages and the training that go along with that. And so it's every season has that same secret sauce. But it just so happens we're in season 5 now, and Terry Silver is in charge, and things can get to a sort of. Are we in?
We can get the spoilers in a sec. I want to because
it can get to crazy places.
Yeah.
I'll just say, you know, to add, you know, I don't think the show would be kind of where it is without Karate Kid 2 and Karate Kid 3.
Right.
Because if you look at those movies, they went Karate Kid 2 as a fight to the death. Karate Kid 3 is batshit crazy in a lot of ways.
Right.
So, you know, when it's really coming from a place of character at the start of it, you know, when we bring Terry Silver back, Terry Silver existed in Karate Kid 3, and the kinds of choices that we've made with the character, we feel like we've grounded him in certain ways. You know, certainly in season 4, we got to learn a little bit more about him, but you know, he has a capacity of being able to do exactly what he's doing here. Season 5 is just him realizing his dream from Karate Kid 3. So it's always starting from a place of character. And once you bring those sequel characters in, it gets bigger and crazier. And, you know, it is, you know, it's a modern TV series, you know, we go big in a lot of spots, but as Hayden was saying, it starts with, you know, Johnny acting like Johnny and Daniel acting like Daniel, and the characters acting like, acting as they would, as we've known them in the past and the ones that we've established. And sometimes it gets combustible and leads to crazy battles.
Yeah, which works is what the show is for sure. And John, I got to ask you this too. And if you want to steer away, then that's fine. But something you said earlier, I'd be mad at myself if I didn't ask. We're talking about that you guys certainly want to do another season, and then you mentioned Obliterated and everything. You guys are busy. You guys are really busy. You do it. I mean, there's the Obliterated stuff that was announced. There was the Ferris Bueller kind of spinoff that was announced. You guys are really moving, and I know how much time it takes you on Cobra Kai. Does that blend into the conversations of why maybe that because you guys are so busy, or is it stuff that maybe, you know, because again, we hear all this news with Netflix, everything happening with Netflix, they're restructuring and stuff too. So does that play into it, of why we haven't had an announcement on season 6 yet?
No, not at all. I mean, you know, to be honest, we were planning to do Obliterated after season 4 of Cobra Kai, and Netflix really wanted us to get a season 5 of Cobra Kai going quickly, so that we could be in this September slot that we're in for this year. It worked with their scheduling and everything that they were doing, so we were happy to do it. But you know, the discussion at the time was like, right on the heels of that, we'll jump right into Obliterated, which has been amazing. I cannot wait for you to see that.
I want to hear more about it. Can you tell me a little more about it?
Yeah, you know, it's a throwback to it's a combination throwback to those big R-rated summer comedies, the kind of stuff that the three of us have done earlier in our career and still love. But also a throwback to those big summer, you know, action blockbusters. We always say that this is Die Hard meets The Hangover, and we're in our 2nd month of production, and it is definitely those things. It is balls to the wall. It's not something that you'd bring the children to. Okay. This is a hard R-rated show, but it is so much fun. It is a mashup of genres that we think works really, really well, and we're loving that. But there will be more Cobra Kai. That has been part of the reason why there hasn't been an announcement about a Cobra Kai season 6, because we've been all talking about the schedule to do one and make sure that we're entering Cobra Kai ready to rock. But you know, there may be, you know, as a result of this, you know, it's no secret we're in September now. We're in the middle of shooting this other show, so there might be a little bit longer of a wait for Cobra Kai than we'd all like, but we are going to be hustling, and we've been already talking about where we're going from here. And it's the future of Cobra Kai is bright. I would say.
The good thing with Obliterated is, you know, it's Sony and Netflix, and so it's the same companies. Yeah. And so we just talked to them about like, look, we want to give Obliterated that like Cobra Kai treatment where it's the three of us in the writing, and we give it that attention. But we know what we need to do with Cobra Kai and the attention we need to give that. And so they've been able to space things out in a way, and part of that was getting season 5 out a little faster, you know. And now we're focused on Obliterated, and we're hoping to get focused on Cobra Kai very soon.
All right, and Josh, before I get into the spoilers, I want to do that next. But with the mention of the Ferris Bueller spinoff, also now the thing that I thought Cobra Kai had and again, we've talked about this many times over. It's still, there was a major hurdle with that. It was like, okay, how are people going to respond to this coming back? And then obviously, well, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do this hard. we're going to do it with heart. We're going to do it with blending generations, and it obviously worked out. Here we are talking about season 5, but with the Ferris Bueller thing, the thing that I find interesting and I'm curious about is it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's about the valets who go out and they have their adventure. The thing is that, you know, obviously we're going to need new actors to play the roles, unless we're doing deep fake. I'm not sure, but and all of that throughout that, is it going to be a tougher hurdle to climb because there's not as many, you know, relatable things that pulled us in the way the Cobra Kai did?
I don't think so. I mean, for us, you know, approaching this idea is similar to the way we approach anything, you know, that has a ton of nostalgia for us and for a huge fandom. And that's not to break the thing that already exists. You know, we are not looking to remake Ferris Bueller's Day Off the same way we were not looking to remake The Karate Kid. We're looking to turn the camera. And, you know, with Cobra Kai, it's turning the camera on, you know, a character and following that character later in life. With this, it's literally looking at the same day. And what a special day that was. You know, most people who, you know, have seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off have seen it more than once. You know, we've seen it, you know, 100 times. And it got our minds moving, you know, when you start thinking about what could make somebody take that car. And yeah, it could be just, oh, it's just a joyride and they went, you know, and they got some burgers and they came back. But what if it wasn't? You know, what if there's a really deep story to tell there where the car is just part of it? And, you know, the car might be the biggest part of it. It might be the catalyst of, you know, that causes some big, you know, story awakening or character moment. But we love that challenge. We love setting a story in a storied day in Chicago history and getting to potentially see parts of that city and that experience that we haven't seen yet, and maybe some overlap with things that we have, but with none of it, you know, taking any respect or appreciation away from what Ferris Bueller's Day Off already did. We're not looking to redo it. We're looking to see, can we also tell a story within that time? Can we add to it in a way that doesn't cause, you know, you to have to look at that movie in a completely different way and say, oh, now they're acting like this happened and that happened. Like, you know, we're not that kind of storyteller. We love the art that exists, and we want to be part of the party.
Well, you know, I'll be looking forward to it for sure. So I'm excited for you guys on both of those projects, but let's talk spoilers. Let's get it. So you've all been warned. Now, if you haven't, obviously, if this comes out on the 9th, the series comes out on the 9th. So go ahead and make sure you check it out, binge it, come back and let's talk about it. So you've been warned. All right. You know, I just mentioned as I was teeing up that series, I mentioned deep fakes. There has been really great deep fakes. And I think one of those, as we mentioned, was Star Wars. I just watched Samaritan recently. Not so good. The movie's fine, but the deep fake. So when I saw Johnny Lawrence deep fake, I went, oh, and then it looked great. It looked so good. I was so excited. What was the thought process of using what? First of all, was it deep fake or was it the de-aging? I think it was deep fake, right?
It was deep fake. Yeah.
Okay.
We you know, when developing that sequence in the writer's room, we thought about all the meaningful people in Kreese's life that we've met so far, you know, in series and the movies that might have something to say to him and might, you know, be part of his, whether it's a moment of clarity or a mental break. And, you know, every suggestion and every, you know, hand raise of like, ooh, Betsy should be in there. Oh, you know, Turner, we could bring back Terry Serpico. Oh, young Kreese. But it was like, can we have young Johnny, you know, say something to him? How can we do that? Well, you know, we've seen some of these deep fakes and we've seen the criticisms of the ones that didn't work out. And we asked our post team, can we do this? But if we do it, we're going to want to really nail it. We're going to want to get ahead of it. You know, we have a VFX supervisor on set. You know, we hire, you know, an actor to sit in as something on camera that has enough facial bone structure that gets you, you know, 50% of the way there in terms of a base. And then you let the masters do their work. And we just gave tons of notes and didn't accept the first version and didn't accept the 5th version. or the 6th.
We were pretty neurotic about it. I'll just
I think we were tweaking it on the mixing stage still.
I was
mean,
willing to accept a half-ass version of it. I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, Hayden early on was like, "This looks great."
Are you kidding? And
This is going to be a disaster.
And then his voice, we had to dial in his voice. We were dialing that in until yesterday. It feels like,
It was great. I mean, really look at, and I am one of those assholes that's very picky about it. So I'm glad that you took the work on it, because it looked really good. And what I thought was impactful about it is that, sure, you could and you did have the Johnny as we see him now in the seat, and it has an impact, but it has so much more of an impact when you see him young, because it's like of the meaning of the relationship that they had, and the way that Kreese saw him, the way that Johnny saw him, and that almost like innocence before that bully that we saw, the troubled kid is sitting there. You feel that impact, and you're not distracted by, oh, that looks terrible. You're like, oh shit, that's young Johnny Lawrence. So it absolutely was great. The question and it's got to be a tough thing for creators in general, because when you get that down and you do have great actors that are playing the young Silver and the young Kreese, is there ever a thing in your head that goes, well, maybe we could do the young Kreese and young Silver as, deep fake as well?
I don't know. We've been we're happy with the actors that we've had, for those roles, and we've done young Johnny before, but younger Johnny, this was the first time you're seeing the exact age range that we saw in the original Karate Kid for it. So we went for it. Fortunately, it turned out, and at least it passed your test.
Passed the Harloff test, yeah.
Nice. I hope the audience at large responds favorably as well. We're really excited about it, but we do talk about the deep fake world, and this kind of thing, doing this kind of thing on other projects or at other times, just in general. It's really a phenomenal technology that continues to get better.
And we love finding young actors that can nail those younger roles. I mean, young Sato was, just a dream to see that take shape.
Middle-aged Sato, younger.
Middle-aged Sato. That's
middle-aged Sato.
It's the truth. And well, so speaking of that, and speaking of, you guys remember back in the day when I kept asking, where's like everyone else, but where's Chosen? And when he showed up in Okinawa, it was very powerful. But man, he steals the majority of stuff that he's in. He's so great in this series. But the thing I love the most, and I can only imagine what it was like with the three of you guys talking, going, all right, how great is it going to be that if we see not just Chosen fight Barnes, but then all the bullies then Chosen and Daniel will have Chosen and Johnny will have a conversation together, and then Barnes will come in, they'll fight together. It's like all the bullies thing. That had to have been a conversation with you guys.
It was the dream. This was literally the dream. It was season 5 more than anything. Is if you're a fan of the Karate Kid franchise and you love all those movies, it's like we brought out and they're all playing with each other and mingling in ways that you fantasized about, seeing, Chosen and Barnes pop off, unexpectedly in the moment that they have. And then the finale was something that was just total fun for us. Working with all of these actors, Yuji has crushed it from the moment we started working with him, obviously Ralph and Billy, but Sean Kanan came in and he was ready to play. He came in and he was awesome. We looked for ways to give a taste of the bad boy and make him a bad man in certain ways, but also make him a character that's progressed outside of this world in a way that maybe some of our other characters haven't. But he got dragged back into the muck with the rest of them, and we loved him as a catalyst for that finale. And yeah, when we have Daniel's 3 bullies from the first 3 movies ditch him on the side of the road and go off to storm Terry Silver's castle. That's basically that's fan fiction at its most ridiculous.
It was my favorite thing in that moment is Johnny's 180-degree turnaround on Barnes. He meets Barnes, he assaults him, and this guy just basically kidnapped them, and just bad boy doesn't look so bad to me. And within the course of about 35 seconds, he's like, the bad boy's right. Let's do this. And he's giving him respect. And they're going off to fight hand in hand. And it just works.
Those two lived in the same era in '84. They would have been in the same squad. Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it worked brilliantly for sure. And I think that, so, Hayden, I had just actually just interviewed Sean, and one of the things I asked him was, because he had said he didn't want to just come back and play the typical villain again. He'd kind of done that already. And then, so what I want to know from you guys is, was it ever a thought of bringing Barnes in as just the bad guy again? Or was it always the plan to have him like redeemed the same way that Johnny and Chosen kind of were? Was that always the plan from the start?
The plan was to do something different with him that we haven't seen yet. Every single character that's been involved in Daniel's life, had some traumatic experience around 1984, 85, and we play with, what their reaction is to that and how they managed like later in life. And with Johnny, it's obviously something that, he's still tied to, and it affects his life. With Chosen, it does, but he's kind of made up with Daniel in his own mind. And I think, with Barnes, we wanted somebody who was just like, he had moved on, like a lot of people would. And so it's relatable. But we like that, like in some ways, he's the most adjusted out of everybody, but he gets like brought into their crazy, karate war. And so, yeah, it was just a result of having, framed, Johnny and Chosen in different ways that we were like, what's different for Barnes? And that was it.
Yeah. And also, going back to how we talked about it earlier, that the absurdity of whether it was Karate Kid 3 or the fight to the death and those types of things. But what was great about it, you guys did it in season 4 with Terry Silver, when he was like, "What? I was coked out of my mind, and I did this, and I was trying to take a kid and beat up this kid and do this." You kind of do the same thing in this season when it comes to Johnny and Chosen, when they're having that moment when they're like comparing, first of all, they're comparing what they did to Daniel, the horrible stuff they did to him. And then they switch, and then they talked about like the cool stuff they saw him do, which I thought was a really great moment as well. So when it comes to that stuff, like what is it like? Is it the fandom? Is it still, that's probably the question I want to ask you, John. And is it still there? Like that, because I know it's work. Is that passion, that love that you guys had for it when you work, because it's work and all the other stuff you're doing, is that crazy love that for the franchise, is it still there?
We love it more. I mean, like it's definitely there, but we've been lucky that like everybody that we've met from that franchise who has been on the show, they're all game and they're all in and they're ready to play. And when we have these new opportunities to pair different characters up with one another, it's just exciting for us, and it's exciting to collaborate with all of them. It's looking at Barnes coming in and Chosen coming in, they inspire us further. So when making the choices that we were making this season, it was, partly inspired by our own storytelling, partly inspired by getting to know these guys and wanting to write more towards them. When we did season 3 and we worked with Yuji there, I don't think we knew for sure that Yuji would return in the capacity that he did. We knew where we're going with Johnny and Daniel in certain bigger strokes ways, but it was really having that experience working with Yuji and seeing how funny he was and seeing how badass he was and how kick-ass he was and how putting him and Daniel together gave us goosebumps, and we knew that there'd be new goosebumps by bringing these other characters together and these different combinations.
And that's you definitely see it. I'm glad to hear it. And you can definitely see it, by the way, that the passion is still there. And Josh, it's funny. My daughter now is almost 11 years old, which is nuts. And wow. Yeah, it's nuts. And so what I realized even more so, because I want to talk about the younger generation as well inside of the show. And what I'm realizing more so is the reason why this show is going to continue to move on, even if you guys do 50 seasons of this thing, and it's still people are going to keep watching it, is because of this reason alone. My daughter has been watching and binging this show Jessie on Disney. And
my son as well.
Right.
It's same age.
Yeah, my daughter
found it at the same time. Yeah.
And then right afterwards, there's like this camp thing that happens that they all go to. And so she's watching, she was sick. She stayed home. She watched it religiously. So I'm watching Cobra Kai. And she walks out, she sees Peyton, and she stops in her tracks, and she goes, she's in Cobra Kai, right? And I was like, can we watch it right now? I'm like, you haven't even watched season 1 yet. I'm like, yes, we will. But automatically I said, that's why this show is also working the way it's working is because you have this younger generation. She's so good in it because Peyton and Tori changes dramatically in this one. Talk about like a turn what Barnes did. She's having this turn because she's having this inner turmoil after the tournament. So Josh, with focusing on these characters and knowing, because we know the Barnes stuff, we know how important that stuff is in bringing in the classic characters, but the focus on the younger characters, how much do you actually do you lean on the actors themselves sometimes to be able to, because we're all in the same age range. You might be able to look into the mind of a 15, 16, 17-year-old girl, like do you wind up talking to the cast a lot as well?
We talk to them, and we try to remember, what that's like. In high school, it seems like every single day is the most important day of your life, and every decision, feels like life and death because of the social hierarchy and the stressors of what's my life going to be like when I graduate? What are the expectations, that I have for myself, that my parents have for myself? What's my family life like? Who doesn't like me? Who does like me? Who do I like? Who can't I be with? We kind of remember all that. Like, I feel like everything the guys and I have ever written has a degree of high school politics in it, in terms of, whether it's, jock and nerd, at its most basic, place, but we also kind of lean into what these kids are going to. We kind of spy on them from time to time, as they're not working. What are they doing? Oh, like these guys are playing Magic the Gathering together. Oh, these two are doing this. And you see these dynamics at work, some of, which haven't changed, in the past 25 years. Yeah. And some of which are totally new in terms of social media and how seriously that's taken and how it means something if, so-and-so is my friend, but they didn't like my post. And we didn't live through that, but we can lean into that and we can extrapolate from that something that we did live through in terms of, so-and-so didn't come to my party or my sleepover, and so there are these universal themes, and we try to really rely on the universal themes as much as possible. So even if you are our generation, you can still get deeply invested in the high school storyline. And it doesn't feel like, okay, here's a bunch of high school kids talking about stuff that I don't care, because they're, we found the Karate Kid when we were 6 years old, and we still got invested in Daniel's first love, even though we didn't really know what that meant yet, because it was just, there was something kind of pure and innocent about it. And we try to always live in that on this show when it comes to crushes and love triangles and just the stress of being that age. There's a lot on these kids' shoulders, and now they have a karate war on top of that. So it's quite a bit.
Yeah. And last question before I get you guys out of here, because of this, going off of that, Hayden. So when it comes to, you had Johnny and Daniel for the first couple seasons, and they could never get on the same page. And now there's only so long you can do that, obviously. And now they're on the same page, and they're friends, right? So that was also, I guess, the case with both Robbie and Miguel. And it looks like that finally happened in the way that they have this almost fight to the death. It almost seems like it's going to happen in the way that it's brought back. But it was, again, I think wasn't always a planned type of question. But did you know that it had to finally subside and get them on the same page, because there's only so long that they're going to wind up killing each other?
Well, it's a combination of wanting Johnny and Daniel's rivalry to shed light on the new generation so that they don't repeat the same mistakes. So we know that we wanted that to happen. And then also, who knows what we have planned, for season 6. It may be one of those situations where, everybody has to, enemies have to get together and to get ready to take on the White Walkers, and it's all happening at the perfect time.
Who will sit on the karate throne?
That's right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's always about, figuring out what's the big obstacles for our characters. And it's really, when you're at the age they're at, it's like they're on the verge of graduating high school. There's some big life things left, and emotional things that have nothing to do with, high school rivalry, which is not the only thing that's going on in Karate Kid. It's also the mentor-student relationship. And so there's still a lot to play out with these characters. And, but yeah, no, it's satisfying that, a lot of these rivalries, they found a way to work together going into the next season.
Well, it's a good setup, obviously, for the next season, but it's also another great season. Very hard to do 5 really, really fun, entertaining, and character-driven series. So congratulations once again on a hit series, and I look forward for more people seeing it, and I look forward for us to do this again, and I look forward to doing it on the other shows as well too, because you guys are really busy, and I'm very excited to see what's coming next.
Awesome.
Thanks so much,
fun.
Kristian.
Always fun. To
Thank
talk
you.
to
All right, guys. So once again, that's John Hurwitz, Josh Shield, and Hayden Schlossberg. And if you didn't know, this is a supersized Cobra Kai episode. Not only did we have Sean Kanan, we had Mary Mouser, and now we had the guys. So supersized episode. Go and check it out. It's on Netflix right now. Thanks again.
Here you go. Now, was that a full episode or what? I told you, full episode. D23 talk, Cobra Kai up the wazoo, and even more. Even more. There's so much stuff that we did here today. So do me a favor and subscribe.